ChatGPT. Hello again, Royal Watchers. If your kettle's still warm, top up that cup, because we're taking an even deeper plunge into the most surprising royal plot twist in decades. Catherine, Princess of Wales, rising as Scotland's new monarch in her own right. What looked like a single dazzling ceremony in Edinburgh is, in truth, only the opening chapter of a constitutional saga packed with ancestral ghosts, modern political fault lines, and a very human race against expectation. Think of this as a long highland hike, heathery ridges of history, sudden dizzying cliffs of controversy, and the occasional lockside reflection on what it all means for the future of the crown. Ready? Lace those boots, we're off. The announcement is still echoing through Holyrood's vaulted corridors. King Charles, clad in muted hunting Stuart tartan, lifting his notes, and the entire chamber, when he declared Catherine Queen of Scotland. In retrospect, the clues were there. Charles spent last winter hosting private audiences with Scottish historians, clan chiefs, and, crucially, backbench MSPs, whose party badges stretch from bright yellow pro-independence to dark blue unionist. Meeting after meeting carried the same question. How do you honour Scotland's nationhood without tearing the Union seams? The palace strategist who finally sketched Queen Catherine on a whiteboard has since joked that the marker squeaked like a bagpipe reed, equal parts hopeful and petrified. Charles was persuaded by three pillars of argument. First, Scotland's medieval constitution recognised a distinct, crowned head. Give modern Scots a ceremonial echo of that and you ease the narrative that Westminster takes more than it gives. Second, Catherine's approval ratings in Scotland orbit the stratosphere. Polls show seniors warmed by her empathy during hospital visits, millennials charmed by her unfiltered selfies at Kelvin Grove Art Gallery, Gen Z fans riveted by her mental health podcasts. Third, the monarchy needed a proactive fix, not another reactive apology tour. Create a new, visible role that belongs to Scotland, and you reframe the old sovereignty debate in terms of shared prestige rather than contested authority. Still, giving Catherine an ancient royal style isn't just a public relations gambit. It drags centuries of precedent into the 21st century spotlight. Scottish archivists rushed to dust off parchment charters. Some media outlets mistyped Queen Consort of Scotland, only to be corrected, no, monarch, a title historically equal, not subsidiary. Legally, Catherine will reign purely in symbolism, but symbolism in this kingdom is real currency. She receives her own Scottish Privy Seal. She can confer certain chivalric honours unique to Caledonian soil. She must approve, by graceful nod, any new arms granted by the court of the Lord Leon. Her coronet, unveiled in a surprise sketch released by the Leon court, blends thistle-topped fleur-de-lis with a slender Celtic knot, deliberately different from Elizabeth II's coronation diadem, yet instantly regal. The plan's success depends on Catherine walking a constitutional tightrope, visible enough to feel genuine, restrained enough not to look like political theatre. Buckingham aides coined an internal mantra: service, not show. Catherine reportedly embraced it, telling a confidant, if this role becomes a costume, I've failed. Scotland isn't a stage set. Indeed, her first weekend after the proclamation eschewed red carpets for rain-slicked pavements of Leith, where she toured a startup hub specializing in tidal energy turbines. Cameras captured her pointing at scale models and scribbling Gaelic words in her notebook, Lus Mara, sea power. But Catherine's new diary is fast filling with events that only a sovereign figure can front. She will preside over the General Assembly of the Church of Scotland next May, the first time the moderator's address ends with Your Majesty, rather than Your Grace, since the early 17th century. She'll open the revamped Burrell Collection's travelling tour before it ships to Toronto, lending the show the cachet of royal endorsement with a Springfield motto, Treasures rove, but roots endure. And she'll revive the tradition of royal court at Holyrood Week, hosting community heroes from every council area, Aberdeenshire lobster pot repairers, Fife microbrewery entrepreneurs, Shetland midwives who commute by RIB in winter seas. Charles insists William accompany her as Duke of Rothesay, but final speeches will be Catherine's alone. That dynamic, spouse to the heir yet sovereign in Scotland, already fascinates constitutional scholars. Professor Ailey McRae calls it a devolution of charisma, arguing it lets the monarchy test drive a federated model, parallel crowns under one overarching sovereign, a concept not unlike the dual monarchy of Austria-Hungary, minus the empire and the intrigue. Of course, nothing this seismic escapes critique. Hardline Republicans label the title tartan window dressing. Independent stalwarts grumble that affability doesn't equal autonomy. The most searing comment came from a Glasgow columnist who wrote, "Catherine might be the perfect queen, but Scotland didn't ask for a queen at all." Her editorial triggered 3,000 letters, half supportive, half bristling that cynicism shouldn't overshadow goodwill. Catherine responded not with statement, but presence, unannounced drop-in at a Clydebank food share, no press, just phone snaps posted later by volunteers stunned that the Queen of Scotland mucked in stacking crates of Tunnock's caramel wafers. Yet for every deft gesture, new tests loom. The next full-blown independence referendum remains plausible within a decade. If one is called, Catherine must stay impeccably nonpartisan. That means no stray comment on fiscal frameworks, no smiling too broadly beside Union flag bunting, no photo-op misread as campaign collateral. Her private secretary for Scottish Affairs, recently poached from the Saltire Foundation, has drawn up crisis drill protocols, a quiet retreat to Birkhall during televised debates, social media posts restricted to cultural matters, every speech vetted by both Scottish Government and Number 10 liaison officers to strip latent cues. She will also inherit centuries-old controversies over church patronage. The Church of Scotland is Presbyterian, not Anglican. Monarchs traditionally attend, but never direct. Queen Catherine must master the nuance of reading lessons from the pulpit without appearing to preach. A former moderator briefed her extensively, marveling at her skill with archaic Scots phrasing. She rolled forthwith it and cleek as though born north of the Tay, he chuckles. Then there's the question of Gaelic vs Scots language outreach. Catherine's Gaelic tutor reveals she's conversational, but conscientious. She refuses to recite set phrases unless she grasps grammar behind them. Yet Gaelic's politics are raw, hailed as cultural revival by some, dismissed by others as public-funded nostalgia. Catherine must champion without alienating. Plans for a Royal Gaelic bursary are being fine-tuned to channel funds into teacher training for island schools, rather than top-down palace adverts. Meanwhile, the British media swirl around rumoured jealousy inside the household. Camilla, they say, shared cordial words at the Edinburgh ceremony, but privately frets over attention imbalance. One courtier shrugs. Her Majesty is pragmatic. She knows two queens can bloom in one garden if the fertilizer is respect. Still, the Palace Comms team regularly rotates headlines. Camilla's new literacy initiative will launch the same week Catherine quietly visits Fife craft weavers, balancing coverage. Amid these grown-up chess moves, another narrative quietly grows, the next generation. Prince George, heir to both throne and, in due course, Scotland's monarchy, watched from the gallery in miniature Stuart tartan trousers. A microphone caught Charlotte whispering, "Mummy's crowny bit looks tight." Catherine smiled but said nothing, aware cameras feast on parental asides. Insiders hint that when the children turn 18 they'll each serve a gap year in Scottish civic life, perhaps George apprenticing with forestry and land Scotland, Charlotte joining a Gaelic medium nursery as reading buddy, Louis volunteering on Sky ferry services, supervised, one hopes. Then there is the Celtic diaspora dimension. Scottish heritage communities in Nova Scotia, New Zealand, Patagonia have written open letters inviting Queen Catherine to become honorary chieftain of their Highland Games. She can't accept every tartan sash, but the Foreign Office eyes transatlantic goodwill. Catherine opening Nova Scotia's Gaelic College centenary would dovetail with UK trade missions across Atlantic Canada. Another example where soft power pollinates economic fields. So, what will success look like 5 years on? Picture 2029. Catherine at the National Mod in Inverness, awarding literary prizes in fluent Gaelic, leading a sombre centenary vigil on St Kilda for evacuee descendants, unveiling a hydrogen-powered inter-island ferry named in Rosgaithilach, the Highland Rose. Tourists still flock to Buckingham's balcony for Trooping the Colour, but just as many queue at Holyrood to watch their own Queen pin bravery medals on mountain rescue volunteers. The monarchy's survival has always rested on adaptation. In the age of social fragmentation, giving each nation a figure who feels genuinely theirs may outwit Republican momentum more effectively than 1,000 nostalgic documentaries. Charles, the once mocked prince who talked to plants, might be remembered as the king who planted constitutional seedlings capable of weathering 21st century storms. And Catherine, art history graduate turned mental health campaigner, may blossom into the modern embodiment of that Scots Gaelic proverb she scribbled in her St Andrew's notebook long ago, "An lutha thig leis a gaul chan fag a crid leis a fian." The strength that comes with love does not leave the heart with pain. Will every skeptic be convinced? Hardly. But watch the smiles of Glasgow taxi drivers when Catherine hops in and thanks them in broad Scots. Listen for the roar inside Murrayfield if she walks the pitch before a Six Nations decider. Feel the hush on Remembrance Sunday when she lays a wreath of poppies and white heather at Edinburgh's Stone of Remembrance. Symbols matter, but sincerity matters more. So pour another dram, dear viewers, because this story is still uncorking. We'll follow Catherine north to Lochnagar forests, south to Dumfries farms, across to Tyrubbard Fife circuits, and into the halls of Holyrood where every gesture writes tomorrow's textbooks. If unity is a garden, she now holds the trowel, tasked with nurturing heather and rose side by side. Whether the bloom survives depends on patience, rainfall, and a touch of regal green fingers. Stay tuned, the next chapter is already germinating.